Hi there, Shran from the future here. Before we jump to today's episode, I just wanted to give you a bit of context on when this was filmed and recorded. So, this was during when Acolyte was running about a year ago, and we decided to get together and talk about Star Wars as a whole. So, some of the things might be a bit outdated in terms of what we discuss in the episode, but overall, I think it's still very relevant, especially because Star Wars Celebration has just concluded. So a lot of the things we discuss are still very relevant and true in terms of where Star Wars is at the moment. So hope you enjoy the episode. Do let us know what you think, especially if you're a Star Wars fan, and hope you enjoy. Hi, Ryan, and welcome to the Cognitive Recalibration podcast. As always, I'm your host, Shravan. We've got Taran here with us.
Hey, everyone.
And we're rejoined by Bhaskar. Welcome back.
Hello. Nice to be back. Thank you.
So, I think this is probably the first time that a guest has requested to do an episode. Usually we're the ones that requesting guests to come on, but Bhaskar wanted to come on to talk about Star Wars.
Yeah, the wonderful wide world of Star Wars.
So this is not like a typical episode that we usually do. So we're not actually reviewing anything as such. We will talk about the Acolyte briefly, but then we're going to talk about just the state of Star Wars in general and how I think we've got a bit of a spectrum here as well. So you're obviously a Star Wars fan. I wouldn't call myself a fan, but I do watch Star Wars from time to time. And I guess you haven't watched any of the recent Star Wars stuff for a little while now.
Yeah, for a little while.
Yeah. So, but you did once watch Star Wars, so you were once into it. So we'll get into our thoughts on it, but maybe let's start with the Acolyte.
Yeah, which is causing a lot of it's in the airwaves, definitely.
Yeah, and I'm keen to hear your thoughts because you've actually seen all the episodes released to date, which is 6?
6 as of Wednesday last week.
As at the time of recording, so it's not the full season. But what are your thoughts on it?
To kind of get into the massive disturbing the hornet's nest. Yeah, look, as someone who's followed the franchise, it's not good for multiple reasons. That's my opinion, obviously. There are some moments where it shines, but it's a very stark contrast to some of the stuff that we've kind of reviewed in the past on the show. So, Obi-Wan series or even the Mandalorian, which we had a good deep dive into. I don't think we reviewed the original movies just yet.
No, we haven't. Yeah,
it's kind of now really kind of showing the systemic cracks and the weaknesses of the Disney Plus kind of live action franchise, or the kind of the production value that's going into sustaining all of those kinds of extended lore environments and all the projects they announced. So it's a bit of a wake up call for a lot of people, and I think the reason why there's a lot of conversation going around right now, not just Star Wars in general, but the reason why Acolyte's getting a lot of attention is I think people just hate watching it, just out of pure spite, or just purely to find out what's wrong now. What are they doing now? Part of the reason why I kind of asked to talk about this is because there is a massive kind of discord with what happened last year with all the releases for, I guess, Star Wars in general, and how they've kind of really ramped down on what they're releasing for 2024 and also moving forward. And we haven't seen movies in the spectrum since the sequel trilogy ended with The Rise of Skywalker,
which was 2019.
Yeah,
so
that was a while
5
back.
years.
It's almost 5 years, and just to put things into context, it's been 10. There was a 10-year gap between, roughly 10-year gap between Return of the Jedi and the announcement of the prequels, being like reviving the franchise. So we're like, think about 5 years in that kind of span. That's a massive time to kind of go without really much cinematic content. But Disney Plus has definitely taken the case is being the intermediary platform to kind of give us a bit of, here's what it's like for a TV show, here's what it's like for an animated series, or here's what it's like for a kind of continuation of that in-universe storytelling. And some of them have been really good. There's been good examples of good storytelling, good writing, good direction, good acting, which has given a lot of the fan base hope for the future. So examples of that, Mandalorian season 1, season 2, season 3 has been a bit shaky, but there are some good examples of that. Ahsoka's really done right in terms of what the fans have been after. So there's proof that Disney knows what the fans are after, And Andor's an example of just writing taken to the nth degree level, where you have a subject matter, but you're taking effort on the writing and you're actually investing in good writing cast. So we've gone from that to the state of Star Wars now, which I think is in a little bit of a rut. That's from my perspective of just looking at it from the whole history of things. But I'd like to know your thoughts and views on what you've seen so far.
I'm in a different boat, I guess, in the sense that I just don't really care that much about Star Wars. So, and because there's so much volume of just content in general, just anything that's mediocre is just not good enough now. And I think there's been a lot of mediocrity with Star Wars. And I think Acolyte is probably, like you said, it's not even mediocre. It's quite bad in terms of the writing. When you have so many different choices, and me not being like a huge Star Wars fan, I don't really have any reason to watch this show unless we're planning to review it or something. I wouldn't really even watch it. And that's been the same with all the other shows, to be honest. Like even like Ahsoka, I think I was following it more closely with Mandalorian up till about season 2. And then that was at a point where when the episode came out, I'd watch it as well. Now it slowly went to a stage where I'd watch it maybe later in the week. I didn't have to watch it straight away. Now it's like I'll just watch it up like after the season comes out, or I'll just not watch it at all, which is what's happened with some of the shows. So the last one that I actually watched end to end was Mandalorian season 3. And yeah, I guess that might have put me off a bit because it wasn't bad, but it was a bit mediocre. And I never really got into Andor as a result of that. But everyone and the episodes I've watched of Andor are really good. So in a way, I think a lot of people didn't watch Andor because of all the stuff that came out before it. If they maintained the quality, I think it might have won a lot of people back, possibly. But because of the stuff that Disney was releasing, it probably deterred people from even watching anything that with the Star Wars brand on it now. So I mean that's where I'm at the moment, because I don't have any motivation to watch these shows at this stage.
And I think that the general viewership is echoing your sentiments, because you look at the viewership of Andor, it was pretty poor compared to the quality of the show, and Ahsoka's viewership was almost on par with Andor, as in, even though it had all the right material to make it a really great show and the attention to detail and the lore and everything, it performed poorly. And I think it's because it's not it's failing to attract viewers like yourself and to kind of grab, well, why should you watch this, when it's announced. You may have did you hear about the character of Ahsoka? Like, did you know who that was when it was announced?
Because I know about the Clone Wars and I know the character. I haven't seen all of the Clone Wars, but I know the character. But it wasn't enough to sort of get me to watch the show. I know like some people love that character and they would have watched it regardless, but I didn't know enough about her. I knew of her, but I didn't know enough about her to actually be motivated to watch the show.
Yeah, because it was originally not going to be called Ahsoka because of that one fear, to try and draw people in. They were thinking of calling it something more generic, like the Master and Padawan or something.
Okay.
So it was going to be this kind of they're going to do that, then they would announce the Acolyte as this almost like a negation of that. And I remember when they first announced Acolyte, I think it was like in the Anaheim Star Wars thing last year, or
would have been a year
and a half.
Yeah, it was announced a while back.
2022.
Yeah.
That's when they announced it, right? And then I remember thinking like, oh, we've never actually had a view into like the dark side of things. So I thought it was going to be very dark, ominous, and just focused on one kind of aspect of it. Based on the production crew and everyone involved in the first few shots of like the stills, I was like, oh, this is looking really good, and that was completely it wasn't anywhere near what it was being built up to be. So that is almost a consistent kind of problem that we're seeing. But also, Darren, what are your general thoughts on the franchise? Because I know so you haven't seen Acolyte, but you also have kept.
I was probably like out of us two, I was the bigger fan of Star Wars at a certain point, and I used to watch everything.
I remember after Force Awakens, you said that you're more excited about Star Wars than about Marvel.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was very into it, and I watched everything up until that point. And even after Last Jedi, I'm one of the people that doesn't hate The Last Jedi and actually thinks it's a decent movie. I don't love it as well. I think it has its problems, but I think it's decent. I was still on board. Did Mandalorian come out in between Last Jedi and...
No, it was
Came after.
Came
It was
after.
2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the discourse around Star Wars definitely changed around Last Jedi, and there was definitely more toxicity in the fan base, which kind of turned me off it a little bit. The last movie I think was just really bad, and like no one could save that. That was just a bad movie, which turned me off a little bit as well. But The Mandalorian definitely brought me back in, and I remember watching the first season and really loving it. And they used the volume very well, and the storytelling was good. Season 2 was also pretty decent for the most part. I think season 1 was better, but season 2 still carried that over. And then Book of Boba Fett came, and this is when they started doing too much, in my opinion, in terms of they had too many shows going on. So they clogged up. If you think about original Star Wars back in the day, they had 3 movies and then they did nothing.
Yeah.
And then they had 3 more movies and then they did nothing. And
they did have the holiday special.
They had the holiday special. They had the Clone Wars. They had other stuff.
They had at that point, Clone Wars was like what they just screened on Disney XD or Cartoon Network. It was like this side thing.
Yeah, but I think they didn't market the Clone Wars as like prestige TV or anything like that.
Or even canon. It was just like, what happened during these 5 years? Let's make something for kids. And it was...
But I think every single one of the new Disney Plus shows, they kind of market as, this is prestige. This is going to be...
like a AAA.
Yeah, AAA.
Yeah.
Which, other than the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian, I don't think any of them are AAA. Other than Andor, which I haven't seen, but apparently
I would say, probably one of them,
But the similar problem is they clogged up with Boba Fett, Mandalorian season 3, and then it just made everything like, oh, there's too much shit coming out. And then Andor came out like pretty soon after that, and you're just burnt out. You don't want to watch any more Star Wars because they've just done way too much Star Wars. And not way too much good Star Wars. It's way too much very average Star Wars. Which is the problem.
That's absolutely true. When you flood the services, even just one platform, when you flood it, you have to prioritize what you want to watch.
Yeah,
and that's why, like, I'm guessing I'm probably the only one in my whole kind of Star Wars group that's actually watched Bad Batch. Because that was also releasing in the midst of all that stuff.
In the midst of all that. That was like Boba Fett time around there.
And they were like, I was like, oh wow, are they releasing a new season of Bad Batch? I was actually surprised when I announced it, and I was like, all right, I've got to watch this. I've got to watch Book of Boba Fett. Andor's coming out as well. And at that point, it was like, there's a lot of material to consume.
And I think Obi-Wan was earlier that year.
Obi-Wan, it was. That was, and Obi-Wan was a serious project. That was literally continuing the story after Revenge of the Sith with the same actors, which was huge. Bringing back Hayden Christensen, bringing back Ewan McGregor was massive enough as it was, and then to have that show release amidst all the other shows, and getting a budget of like a budget of 80 million or something, or 90 million, which was comparatively low at the time. I remember. And
apparently, Acolyte is 180 million.
Yes, it's huge. $180 million for a 8-episode or a 9-episode series, more than Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah,
as a blockbuster movie.
Yeah,
I think that's a problem with some of these shows as well. Like, they give them pretty substantial budgets for most of them,
and it doesn't
most of them look like shit. I think. Do you know what happened? The guy that made the volume, he only did the first season of The Mandalorian, and then after that, he hasn't been working on any of the Disney Plus shows.
Right.
So he only did that first season.
Was he a director of cinematography? Like, he was working with the actual technology?
Yeah. And he's the guy that created the volume. And he obviously, in that first season of The Mandalorian, they used the volume very well.
Yeah.
Ever since then, it's just a bunch of blokes in a room with a rock in the room or something. And it looks like shit.
Yeah.
And everything looks like shit in the Star Wars TV shows. Other probably Andor, which I've seen stuff and it actually looks pretty decent.
Yeah. The difference with Andor is I don't think they use the volume as extensively like they did with Mandalorian, because Mandalorian really focused on having the combined kind of CG elements. Like, there's a shot of where they're focused on Mando's chrome head and you see a reflection of some bounty hunter jumping between the canyons.
Yeah.
You can only do that in the volume because you have like the
You can't
LED
do the
screens.
reflection. Yeah.
So it's like it looked realistic enough. And I think with something like Andor, when you have people that are just normal, everyday, you don't have weird aliens or chrome domes or anything, Android like machines walking about. It's easier to film it on location or in a controlled set, which they do in like episodes 5 onwards. And then you have like really, when you control and you remove the variables, the directors can focus on the quality of the shot or focusing on someone's expressions, which I think when you're watching Mandalorian, they did a lot of careful consideration into, well, what shot do we want to use for this? How do we want to reveal Grogu? How do we want to reveal the hidden elements of the story? And when you're watching something that's been produced recently, especially you're talking about Acolyte, that quality, that care is just not there.
And I think they do. Do they use the volume for Acolyte? Is it volume based? I'm not
there are
sure.
some shots that look like they've used the volume, just purely because of the fact that they're in a spaceship and you see like external space, that kind of stuff. So I don't know though, because I can't distinguish. And here's another issue: the consistency of vision between like for a whole series is lost when you have different directors for every episode, and you have slightly different cinematic visions for each script of an episode. When the script writers change, when the director of photography changes, when the director himself or herself changes, it's hard to grasp onto what is the feeling they're going for here. And I think we started to get a little bit of that in Mandalorian season 3 when you're changing directors so rapidly, and then you bring back Bryce Dallas Howard or Dave Filoni for one of the finales. Yeah, you kind of get a good feeling of it, but the problem is the consistency of the vision is slightly lost. And that's highlighted in some of these newer shows where you start watching it, it feels a bit inconsistent, and then you're like, I don't know where this is going to go. So it just stresses you out. And then you're just basically waiting for, well, what's going to go wrong in this episode, or what's going to be messed up here, instead of the feeling it should give, which is like, oh, I can't wait to find out what happens. That's the feeling they should have.
I think 99% of the Disney Plus shows are paced like shit because they want to get a certain episode count, I'm guessing, and they need a certain episode count.
Yeah, it's not just the Star Wars ones, it's the Marvel ones as well. And the Marvel ones all have the same issues in terms of the budgets and the quality of the visuals and the writing.
Well, a lot of this is very much crossover with Marvel in terms of just throwing a bunch of shit on Disney Plus, and every week there's a Marvel thing. And like it gets to a point where you're just like, I don't want to watch average shit every week, even if it is in this universe.
Yeah. So even we used to cover basically every Marvel show, but even I haven't seen Echo, I haven't seen What If season 2.
No.
I'm just like, I don't need to. Like, no one's saying it's good. Why should I waste my time?
That is huge because Marvel, as Marvel goes, you guys are the biggest fans, right? If you're not watching Echo and What If season 2, who's going to watch
who's
it?
watching?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing. If I'm like getting jaded watching this show, like who's watching these shows?
Yeah.
Who are they making it for? And it's wild. I don't even think they're making it for the next generation. It's just like they might not be listening to what the people want, and they know what people want. Because I remember in I'm holding the cup now, Mandalorian cup right here, right? Season 2 finale where they bring back Luke. That was a clear moment of like when the execs knew the fan base was a bit toxic and jaded. They didn't really connect to anything. And they brought Luke back. And I think they knew at that point, everyone was just screaming, continuously saying, we want Luke. We want Luke. We want to see him properly as he was at the peak of his power, not when he's like this broken man of a shell of his former self, which is the whole reason why there was so much backlash behind Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. They brought him back, and the fan base was, cheering. I remember fans were like watching it, crying at the finale, going like, "This is exactly what we needed to see." And then they bring him back in Book of Boba Fett. But each time they do that, they're like saying, "Well, Disney knows exactly what the fans want, what some of the diehard fans want, and what some of the newer fans want." But they are restricted. They're literally kind of pulling that away and saying, well, that's not what you're going to get. Here's what we want you to like. Here's what we want to push out. And that stuff is just being rejected en masse. So I am really curious to find out, are they focus testing this stuff? Are they finding out what people think before they put it out there? And how much of it is listening to critics versus listening to fans? Because when you listen to critics, like if there are showrunners or directors or storytellers out there that are just scouring through Reddit, scouring through Facebook, looking for all of the posts that people post and seeing if anyone's figured out what they're going to do with their characters. If you're doing that, you shouldn't be a storyteller. You shouldn't be working in cinema at all. Like what George Lucas said from the very beginning is, if you have a story, put it out there. Don't even listen to what people think. Just put it out there, pitch it, make a movie on it, and then if people like it, they'll like it. That was his whole mantra. You don't go around searching for who's figured out my theory, and if they figured it out, I'm going to scrap it and write it again. And that's exactly what Rian Johnson did for Last Jedi, which he had an ending in mind, and then someone on Reddit made a post about what they think is going to happen. And he read it and was like, yeah, they figured it out. I'm going to change the ending. Scrub it. Let's do it again.
Is that confirmed?
Yeah.
I just haven't heard that before.
He did. He said that that it was going to have a different ending, and apparently through a conversation with Dave Filoni, he said that it's too predictable from what he's read, and based on what he's read, his assistant was saying he did do a lot of like reading on Reddit. And this was around the time when The Force Awakens was still in cinemas. Rian Johnson had already written the story for Last Jedi, so he didn't wait until the kind of cinema had released and there was a bit of a feeling for the movie. He kind of just went around and be like, well, if people already know what's going to happen, I'm not going to write it this way. Which, if people keep doing that, then you have this issue of like all you want to do is subvert expectations. You don't necessarily want to put out what you really think should be the story.
That's an issue because it's basically a reactionary way of going about things. If they already had a vision for the 3 movies, just because someone's figured out the story doesn't mean you change the whole vision. Or like the way he did it as well, because he had the middle movie. Yeah. That basically stuffs up both because of The Last Jedi, and I also don't mind Last Jedi. I don't think it's that bad, but because it's in the middle, like what came after was really hampered, but also what came before, like it loses its value as well. So it kind of just destroyed that trilogy in a way.
The reason that last one's so bad is because of the backlash of the second one, and they were they were way too reactionary in that last one, and they changed the director, and then they rushed the production. They
retconned events in The Last Jedi. They were basically trying to fix stuff in the movie. To say, oh, actually, no, Luke cares about the lightsaber. He cares about Rey. He cares about the Force and teaching.
Rey's not just no one.
She's not just no one. And the whole twist was meant to be, the original story was that she was a Kenobi because she's got the English accent and she was somehow related to Obi-Wan's brother. But they changed that because someone guessed it. And it's just like...
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah, that was what came out.
I'm surprised by that because that whole movie is just like... This is why I don't mind that movie, is because that whole movie is, hey, you don't have to be born into a certain family, or you don't have to be be the special chosen one to be something special. Like you could just be a random person that chooses to do the right thing and then end up
that's actually a really cool way to go about it if they were dedicated to that from the beginning.
But then I think if they continue that in the next one without this reactionary, hey, let's turn everything around.
Let's bring Palpatine back.
Yeah, they could have
somehow.
Yeah,
somehow Palpatine returned.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think they could have salvaged it almost. But that second one the third one almost says, hey, don't watch the second movie.
Yeah,
this is a whole different thing. So it's a very disjointed trilogy. Yeah,
and if that's how they're dealing with it in the cinematic, like in the movies. You can imagine how disjointed the TV shows are going to be.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing things about Acolyte where they're like week to week they're making changes.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy.
If that's the case.
Yeah.
If that's the case.
Because I think in one of the episodes there was clear ADR. And so like it character off screen was talking, but you could tell that was a dialogue recorded later in post. It wasn't a dialogue that existed.
Yeah, like sometimes they fix stuff because they found there's a mistake or a continuity error or something, right? So they fix it, like photoshopping out the coffee cup in Game of Thrones season 8. Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's that. If they're doing actual changes because of stuff that people have, like the reactions are not coming out well, that could be a real That's not good, like a precedent for what's going to come.
That's just a stupid way to run a show.
It sounds wild. Like, how would you even go about meeting your schedule if you're changing stuff halfway through?
Another problem with Marvel and Disney, I heard in general, is the VFX. Well, because of timelines like this, if they're changing stuff on the fly, then they're probably crunching their VFX team to get stuff done in time.
Which is also why it doesn't look very good.
Sometimes things look like shit.
There was a really good video essay about this, why visual effects in these TV shows are looking worse than just 2 years ago. And it's like a lot of these companies that are just dumping work on these VFX artists are doing stuff like last minute changes, which forces these artists to stay back and work 70, 80-hour weeks and churn stuff through. And it's just, I don't think it's sustainable.
It's not that the company's bad at VFX. Obviously, if you give them enough time, they will do a good job and get something good.
Yeah.
But if you're making them do a VFX job in 24 hours, then obviously it's going to look like shit. Yeah.
That it comes back to the vision. If you have if you have clarity on what you're making, I'll give you a really simple example. And this is one of the biggest things that I don't understand that's coming out of Acolyte. It's a show about twins. Okay, about the main actress in this, she does a double action. So she's playing both the light side and dark side characters. Okay, so it's established that it's identical twins, right? We all accept that. When they go to the flashback and they show that it's girls, that when the twins are girls, the people they cast, the kids they cast for this, they're not identical twins. They don't even look. They don't look the same. They're sisters in real life. They don't look anything like each other apart from their hairstyle. And so when I'm thinking, when someone in the boardroom is looking at this casting decision, or even the choice to go with non-identical or fraternal twins to cast them, is there anyone in these rooms saying, "Hey, hold on, this is not right. This is breaking your own in-universe law," right? If there's no one in those rooms that have like said, I think something's wrong, or no, we shouldn't do that, or maybe we should cast someone who's identical. If there's no one there, can you imagine the stuff that is getting through where people are just too afraid to say something because it might be considered politically incorrect, or I don't know how pointing out the fact that these kids aren't twins is politically incorrect. To me, it actually looks like bigotry, because if they can't tell the difference between two young, girls that look different, it's like, that's a real big problem. Because they would never make that mistake in any other production. If it was like non-colored characters or ethnic characters, they wouldn't make that mistake. And so I can't look past that. I'm going, if you made such a fundamental error in trying to pass off these girls as identical, when you've cast an actress playing both roles, so she's literally identical, right? It just is it breaks the wall for me so heavily that I'm just like, I can't take this production seriously. So I want to know what is, if no one's there to even just say, hey, this is a mistake, or this is wrong, we should correct it. That's when you get a bunch of yes men, or yes women around you. Not a good place to be. Then you're making errors on the fly. You're making decisions that could be catastrophically received, but no one's correcting you because they're afraid of something. And I think we're seeing the results of that.
I mean, I've seen stuff like this in the corporate world where, you've got leaders that basically don't want to hear people's voice. Like, they want to just do whatever they want.
Wow.
And it could be just, I mean, Disney is a corporate enterprise after all, and they're in it.
You don't normally get that in
like creative work. Usually.
No, you do in creative work actually, but it's normally when it's a sole person that is the creator. Like if you get you get like a music artist or something that like creates music, or you get like, I would say Zack Snyder probably falls under this sometimes in terms of which
likes to have
good
control.
Yeah, he does his own vision, and I think he probably has a lot of yes men around him that say yes to most things that he will want to do. So it surprises me.
But
I think that I think like for the Disney ones, I think it's probably like a boardroom. This is the problem. It's probably like 14 people in a boardroom making decisions.
Yeah.
And there is probably no clear vision. It's just lots of guys just being like, oh, let's try this, or let's do this. Yeah.
And for people who are so passionate about like showing diversity, I would love to find out the actual diversity of that boardroom.
So I don't think Disney in particular, this is a thing that I heard online, is that the executives and the people that greenlit shows for diversity don't give a shit about diversity. They just want it for numbers. The true thing, and I'm not saying, hey, they should stop greenlighting things for diversity. The true thing is the people that create the show and probably the person that is like directing it, or the people in it, they have a true passion for diversity.
Yeah. And
if they're in it for the true reasons, then normally it will turn out okay.
Yeah.
And it'll be like the reason they've greenlit it is because, hey, this is going to get a lot of viewers on it. But they're probably don't really care about the diversity side of things. But as long as the person that makes it cares about it, that is going to end up being a good thing.
Yeah.
But if the person that makes it doesn't give a shit about it as well, then it's just a cash grab.
Well, when it's done right, when you actually care about inclusivity, okay, and you do a story that actually shows good representation of different cultures or different people, right? If you actually care about it, it can come off amazingly well. And I think a good example of this is coming into like Ahsoka, right? When they cast Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, as adult Ahsoka, the story behind the casting was a fan actually photoshopped Rosario Dawson's face as Ahsoka, and Dave Filoni looked at that going, that's actually a really good idea because it perfectly works out perfectly from what they animated in the Clone Wars. It wasn't never about hiring someone for the sake of diversity. It was the fact that, hold on, Rosario has got the right experience in stunt work. She's in Daredevil, and she was doing a lot of work with Marvel beforehand as well. And she's actually a kind of person that people can picture as being part of that role as a warrior, as a lone kind of representative of what Anakin's legacy was going to be. So when that casting decision was made, I remember the reaction was like, oh, it was great. Everyone loved it, right? And same thing when Mace Windu was announced for the prequels. People loved the idea of having like, oh, Samuel L. Jackson's going to be in the prequels. It was about the character. It was about like the essence of what they're going to bring through. But what you're saying, when you put diversity for diversity's sake, you don't really think about where people are coming from or what the storyline is. An example in Acolyte is it's about a bunch of Force-sensitive witches, okay? And it's only set 80 years before the prequel, so it's not like a whole new generation. It's not the High Republic yet. We already have an example of Force-sensitive witches in the Star Wars universe in the planet of Dathomir, which is where Darth Maul is from, right? His whole species is like a matriarchal-focused population of Force-sensitive witches, and to completely ignore that planet and that species and those people from there, and to say, well, we're going to create a whole new class of people, like a different sect of witches, and just kind of do what we want with it, tells me that they're doing something for the sake of breaking the norms or showing something that is not part of George Lucas's general kind of universe. So and it's easy to pick out when that happens, when there's a lot of focus on just representing what people might want to see, but without actually knowing what they really do want. That's when you get into a bit of like a shady territory. I don't think their gambit has paid off. They took a risk. They did it.
And I think it's just a mandate across Disney. So it hasn't just applied with Star Wars. They've certainly done it with Marvel as well. And even their live action Disney stuff, like in general, I think there was maybe a mandate to push diversity, which is not a bad thing. Yep. It's just that the way it's eventuated is they've been mediocre projects, and then people have blamed the diversity for the lack of success in some cases. So we're certainly not doing that. I think a lot of these projects would have worked with the same cast and the same crew.
Yeah.
I think the writing was just poor. And
ironically, I think the casting choices are great for this show. For Acolyte, casting is great. Like Lee Jung-jae as Master Soul in this is probably the reason why I'm watching this show. Is the one reason I want to see more of his character. He's like an amazing artist. I'm worried about the diversity behind the screen, right? The script writers, the directors, the music productions. Like, if I ask you today, what's the theme of Acolyte musically? Do you know what the score is? Like, what is the motif for Acolyte? There is none. I went searching for it. I couldn't find a motif. But I know what the motif for Mandalorian is. I know what the motif for Andor is. I know what the motif for...
Boba Fett had one.
Yeah, Boba Fett had a chorus of people chanting Boba Fett.
Yeah.
There
Terrible show, but at least it's
had a pretty sick ending credit scene.
Yeah.
There is no musical motif for Acolyte. Why is that? Right? And it's like, are they just hiring people who are terrible at their jobs for this show? Like, what's going on with some of the choreography, the script writing? There's a lot of areas where I would love to find out, did they get experienced people for this? Or are they just trying to find new talent? And if it's the latter, then they're going to reap the rewards of that, because it's not doing well. The results are there to show.
Do you know what I think should happen with Star Wars? I think should stop making stuff for a while. Just honestly, just take a break.
Yeah.
Like I think there's two franchises that are very lore heavy and that make people very angry in this universe. One is Star Wars, and the other one is Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah.
And
Lord of the Rings.
both of those have shows now and make people very. These two things, if you do one thing wrong or there's something that people don't like, it just creates like this well of hatred and that festers around.
Yeah.
You just need to leave it for a while. And when someone comes back with a really good idea of something they actually want to do, then sure, greenlight something and then make it happen.
Yep.
Don't keep greenlighting stuff just to make more money because it's obviously not working and it's just creating mediocrity. I think they should just leave it for 10 years, like they did with the prequels. Or like there was a
before
huge
streaming
gap.
existed.
Yeah. Before,
Well, if you forget about the shows, then it's been 5 years since the movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think if you look at how long was it from the original trilogy to prequels, it's like
You're looking at
1980, 20?
85 to 99, so roughly 15 years.
Yeah, 15 years.
Yeah.
And then prequels to the sequels was about 15 as well.
10 years, I think. When was that?
2017.
Revenge of the Sith was 2005?
2005.
Five.
I remember 4 was all like Matrix and Pirates of the Caribbean, and Star Wars came out in 5. Yeah.
And then Force Awakens is 15, 20.
So 10 years. Yeah. So
yeah.
Yeah, I think there hasn't been a movie, I agree, in the last 5 years, but Star Wars has never gone away in the last 5 years, and there's always been a show or something that has been in the universe, which makes it feel like it's never gone away. And Star Wars isn't that prestige thing that it was because there was 6 movies or there was 9 movies, and that was it. And it was this prestige thing. Whenever something came out, it's like, we have to watch it. Yep. But now there's an episode every week. So who gives a fuck? Like you watch whatever.
It's lost its value.
I think it's also that they've definitely kept, once it went over to Disney, it was a completely different vibe of instead of what you're saying is let's just focus on the cinematic experience. Once in a while, fans will love it if we just space out the movies. They went all in. They started building theme parks. They started investing in TV shows, merchandise, toys. They brought all the toys back, re-released Lego sets.
Honestly, I think Disney Plus is one of the worst things that's happened to both Marvel and Star Wars because it's kind of ruined both those properties.
That's incredible. Because I remember the first 2 years of when Disney Plus came out, it was actually the opposite. It was like, oh, I'm so glad that we have a chance to see all these new stories.
Yeah, I was very excited. And I think the first few things that came out for both properties were actually pretty decent and like kept things going. But clearly over time, it's just, let's get these out as quick as we can. We need to do 3 of these a year. Otherwise, it's not worth it. And it's just diluted the property. Even if the movies are good and you get 3 good movies, you have 4 shit shows in between and it makes it feel like none of it's good. So yeah.
I think there was issues with Star Wars before Disney Plus, which was because Rise of Skywalker did come out before, and then
but I think Disney Plus completely destroyed it.
And then for Marvel, you can almost pinpoint it to Disney Plus because Endgame came out in 2019. Literally everything that's come out after that has been worse.
But the thing is, there is good stuff. Like if you look at it, there is good stuff in after that for both Star Wars and Marvel. It's just if you have one good thing, but there's 20 shit things around it, like you don't remember that one good thing. And overall, you look at the package
Which
rather
is what
than
happened to Andor, essentially.
It got lost in a flood of like material.
Yeah.
And the same thing is that Acolyte is also kind of muddying the waters a little bit, or just kind of making it a little bit harder for people to get into the franchise, like you said. Like if something really great was announced, like Skeleton Crew's coming out later this year.
Is that the one with Jude Law?
With Jude Law, right?
It's like the Stranger Things one. Yeah.
But now thinking about the way I thought of Acolyte, like, oh, Acolyte's going to be great. They're going to talk about, all the different Sith Lords and their practices. It's nothing like that. It's a cash grab, right? So now I'm thinking, is Skeleton Crew going to be the same shit? Like, is it going to be something that is going to just not be up on par with the quality that we've seen so far? So I'm hesitant of now anything that's announced in the future. And I'm not surprised that all of this stuff, like Patty Jenkins' project with Rogue Squadron, that was like.
So this is another issue with Star Wars as well. Is they announce a lot of movies or they announce a lot of projects, and then they never eventuate because the director does a movie in between, which doesn't do that well, and then they end up canceling it. So it first started with Colin Trevorrow for the third Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
He released a movie after The Last Jedi, I think. I can't even remember what it was called.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Book
then,
of Henry, I think.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, and immediately didn't do well. And then they took him off that project and they brought J.J. Abrams back.
I think the other stuff that was happening then was because of what Last Jedi was. I think they wanted to go back to someone safe or perceived to be safe.
Got J.J. Abrams.
J.J. Abrams.
But then it made the whole production process smaller and made that movie bad.
But the sheer audacity of blaming the fans for being toxic and then deciding behind closed doors, like, oh, we have to get them back. We have to somehow appease them. It's like they never accepted the fault was with them.
Yeah, it was. Right? They should have just continued with the pathway they had. And then
just commit to it, yeah.
Patty Jenkins, they announced the Rogue Squadron movie.
Yeah.
It
was like a Top Gun thingy, like,
And then she made Wonder Woman 2.
1984, was it?
Which was bad. And then they're like, we're not making this movie anymore.
Why? It's got nothing to do with, like...
They announced, before The Last Jedi, they announced a trilogy of Rian Johnson movies. And then The Last Jedi did bad, and they're like, we're not doing that anymore.
And then Taika Waititi had a movie?
They announced a Taika Waititi movie.
Yeah.
And then the Thor second movie came out. Yeah. The one that he did, it was bad. And they're like, we're not doing this anymore.
And then D&D?
D&D?
Yes. Yeah. So that was the biggest They were moving to, they actually finished the last season of Game of Thrones as a rush. So they could
start writing. They were actually, they revealed they were actually already, they were doing Star Wars scripting while season 8 was being written.
People actually said, hey, it's okay, you do this season. We will finish it off in another season. And they're like, no, we don't want to do that. We want to finish it. So they ruined Game of Thrones to do Star Wars.
Yeah,
and
that was a catch-22 because that reception then got kicked off the fucking Star Wars project. Why did they ruin it in the first place? Oh my god!
So like,
it's almost like a self-serving prophecy.
Yeah. Why? First off, why are you announcing movies this far out if you're not going to go into production? And then if you're trusting these people and announcing a director, if they're doing a bad movie, then why are you just kicking them off straight away? Like, if you're announcing this stuff, follow through with it. Don't just,
it's setting a real dangerous precedent because it's like if no one wants to touch Star Wars, eventually it won't get funded, it won't get okayed, and more worryingly, actors won't want to audition for it. Like all of the actors in Acolyte, I have no doubt they're all passionate fans of Star Wars. They have to be because they're proud to be on the project, right? Like, so Imelda Steinfeld and Daphne Keenes is one of my favorites. She was in His Dark Materials, the TV show.
She's in Logan as well.
She's in Logan. She's X-23 in Logan. That's where she started when she was a kid, but she killed it in His Dark Materials as the as Lyra. So they're all fans of the lore and stuff. When they don't get treated with, like, when their characters or the scripts that the dialogue they have to say on screen when it's poorly written, it comes off on them. Like they're the ones who get harassed on social media. They're the ones who get all the negative shade.
Like the girl from Last Jedi.
Oh my gosh!
And this is not something that started now. This is actually, it probably started in the prequels when what's his name? Jar Jar Binks. Well, him as well.
Yeah.
Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
Both basically weren't able to take up an acting role again because of fan hate.
And even Hayden Christensen.
And Hayden Christensen
got it for a while.
Yeah, he got lots of fan hate and didn't do anything for a long time.
Yeah, Kelly Marie Tran.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Kelly Marie Tran. I've never seen Kelly Marie Tran in anything else.
No, what happened to her was absolutely not fair. And I remember she got so much shit because I was like trying to tell people, and it's not the actor's fault for having shit lines to say. Which is exactly what happened in episode 1, Phantom Menace.
Yeah, the guy that played Jar Jar Binks never played another role, I don't think, until he came back in the Obi-Wan show where he played a cameo.
A cameo, yeah.
But I don't think he's had it on screen.
Ahmed Best.
Yeah. It's not his fault.
No,
same with the kid.
Jake Lloyd.
Yeah.
Oh man, what I would give to see Jake Lloyd come to a Star Wars celebration.
Yeah,
people will die if they come.
It's revisionist history. It's like it's same guys that were like on boards like trashing him back in 2000. Because they realize for him now.
It's because they realize that what happened to him. Because when you're trashing someone individually, you don't necessarily think, oh, everyone's doing this, right? You just think it's you. So when people have the time, the luxury of time to reflect, they realize, oh, I was a bit harsh. He deserves to get all the the accolades of being part of that project. So I think that's what happened to Hayden Christensen when he came back to Star Wars Celebration. He got all the love. Daisy Ridley's going to get her time as well. I'm sure
there'll be a revisionist history on the
sequels,
100%.
100%. With Daisy Ridley's new movie coming out with what is it, the Jedi Academy or whatever she's doing, 100%. It's going to completely rewrite most of the stuff.
People will go back to those movies and be like, "Hey, we actually love these now."
Yeah. I'm doubting whether or not that's going to happen with the sequels. But if this franchise wants to survive, I honestly think they need to start. There's one big thing they need to do. And they're not admitting they need to do it. They need to bring George Lucas back.
I actually don't think George Lucas wants to come back. Yeah,
and I don't think it's too late now. Yeah, he's also almost 80, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's almost 80. Whether or not he wants to come back,
I think if he wanted to come back by now, they would have done that. Yeah. They 100% would have went for that, and they 100% would have spoken to him already.
Well, the funny thing is,
try and get him back.
He was technically behind most of the Clone Wars. So what happens is when Dave Filoni was storyboarding Clone Wars, George Lucas was actually there at Skywalker Ranch, giving notes on what Dave got right, what Dave didn't get right. So I think Dave has been kind of the understudy for George Lucas's work for a lot of time. That's why it was so well received when people were looking at the material of the animation, the story, and all the kind of stuff between the clones and the Jedi. People were really kind of resonating with that as the show went on. So by the time season 5 came along for Clone Wars, every episode was like a AA level, high quality episode written content. George was basically behind the shadows, pulling the strings on like the story elements here and there, what cities would do, what Anakin would do, and that kind of stuff. So even though George would never come back to Disney Star Wars like properly, I feel like he needs to be brought into some capacity to oversee a project, right? I don't know if he was involved at all with like Obi-Wan or Ahsoka, because technically they were very close to the main storyline of like Anakin and his disciple, that kind of stuff, and Obi-Wan. But I feel like that might be the only saving grace, to get him involved somehow, if not directly, to bring back, I guess, what the whole thing is about. The heart of the franchise, or the soul of the franchise, because right now it's looking like
I doubt it. I don't think he wants to do it.
Yeah,
and I think they would throw all the money in the world to kind of put his face on something, because they know the fans would love that. Like you said, I think they care too much about what the fans say, almost a little bit as well.
Yeah,
and they try and cater to them rather than just make good stories. So I don't think that will happen.
Well, the problem is, I think it's not that they're listening to the fans too much; they're listening to the critics too much. Like if someone's coming out there saying, "Hey, Leslie, you shouldn't be doing this," they're kind of like listening too much to that, instead of listening to the diehard fans saying, you should probably do this to correct your law-breaking kind of stuff. They're just not listening at all. I feel like at this point in time.
Well, maybe they're just listening to too many people, and it's all getting muddled up.
Yeah,
and it's
look, Leslie Headland, if you're listening to this right now, seriously, stop listening to us right now. Just do your thing. Stop listening to other people, and just, if you have a vision out there, and go and do it. But she every episode, every week, she's out there kind of talking to interviewers and talking about what the thought process was behind stuff. And I feel like every time they reveal the thought process behind it, it kind of just scares us more, because some of the actual decisions they've taken are like, it's really weird. It's really nonsensical.
All right, I guess wrap it up with what you think they should do.
Yeah, so you've mentioned just don't do Star Wars for 10 years.
Yeah.
You're saying bring George Lucas back. I think maybe a bit of a combination, not explicitly bring George Lucas back as such, but definitely take your time with your content. I think one thing you could explore is obviously the fans are not happy with the way they ended Luke in the sequel trilogy. And there's all this content, the Legend, is it Legend?
Legends.
The Legends
Yeah,
series,
extended, yeah.
Where it's not actually within the the canon of Star Wars as such. It's like a Elseworlds kind of thing. So it's like almost a multiverse kind of thing. So it's not actually directly linked with any of the current Star Wars material. But you can explore a story with the original characters, recast. I don't think you need to do the de-aging stuff with Mark Hamill or anything. Just recast, do a different story. It's a different universe, but you get to explore a story with the original characters in a different part of the Star Wars world.
That's interesting.
I just think that there is so much love for those original characters and there's so much lore and stuff behind it that at this point, I don't think revisiting them will
Fix anything.
I don't think it pleases anyone. Like there'll be something that someone will hate, and there'll always be something that someone will not like with those original characters, just because there's so much history behind them, there's so much lore behind them. It's always, they're never going to be perfect. They're never going to be able to make something to please everyone, just because there's too much. I think there's too much anticipation behind that. If someone does it, kudos to them. Like, that would be amazing if you could pull that off. I don't think anyone can realistically pull that off. In my opinion, if they do anything, I think they take it way far into the future, don't have it related to any of the current characters, maybe have some cameos of characters if you need to, but don't have them as the main characters, have them as far behind as well. Don't say in the past, because clearly there's too much lore stuff that
comes afterwards.
That comes up,
yeah.
And then you end up not. People will try and tell a story and get something wrong because there's too much lore. You set it in the future where there isn't lore, and you can create your own story, which gives them freedom in a certain amount. And then if you need to, you can have cameos of characters from the past, but not have them be the main basis.
Yeah. I think that, an example of this where they did recast was Solo.
And I don't think he did a bad job, but everyone hated it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's more because of the movie itself. The writing and maybe the story just wasn't up to the mark. I thought he was actually not that bad in terms of the actor. But I don't think we've seen it with multiple other franchises. There's been so many Batman. There's been, dozens of James Bond. So I don't see why.
It's a different
prospect.
Different.
Yeah,
it's a different prospect.
I see what you're trying to say. You're almost like it's not caring so much about the continuity of the characters. Like Book of Boba Fett literally took a deep fake of Mark Hamill and also did a generative voice algorithm to match the same voice he had when he was in 1989. So that was what happens when you put in all the technology, all the effort to get a small kind of homage to the original Luke. It paid off well. People loved that aspect of it. The problem now is, how do you do that on a large scale? You have to recast. You have to do things organically. Otherwise, everyone's going to be deep faked and it just looks artificial. There's no real actors there, right?
And that's why if you do it as a multiversal concept or a Legends kind of thing, it doesn't have to be the same actor because technically it's a different universe.
Yeah.
So it could work out. And it gives them a chance to explore. I think the fans are just not pleased with the way things ended with Luke. And they maybe want to see him at his peak doing stuff that, post.
There is a way they could do it. There's a way they could do it. And this is what happened when the prequels came out and everyone was dejected because it was a similar kind of feeling of this is not what we thought it was going to be after Anakin turned to the dark side and all that. They released an animated show and they kind of went soft on it, but they focused hard on the story later on. They could do a more realistic animation, almost like Studio Blur or what they've been doing with the Old Republic visuals. Make it like realistically animated with bringing Luke, Leia, and Han into the fold, and maybe showing what happens to them after the ending of the original trilogy. But the voice actors you cast differently to match the same kind of feeling of what they're getting. But visually, you're getting something that is not necessarily live action. It's controlled. When you do something animated, everything's heavily controlled. The storyline, storyboarding, everything has to be decided months in advance, years in advance sometimes.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a plan. There's going to be a controlled fixture. That could work if they did something like that. I've yet to hear people complain about the Clone Wars. The quality is, established. So I reckon there could be a future in animation. Live action would be the challenge to try and get it across the board. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, I think it's a matter of do the storytellers care about their story? Are they committed to their story? Are they committed to the story they want to tell? If that's the case, stay committed to the path, right? I would say don't do this stuff where you're constantly feeling the waters of what's good, what's not, what do people like, what's in, what's out. Just if you have a good story, tell it. If you don't have it, keep working on it.
Yeah.
Well, I think Andor is an example of that. I don't think anyone was actually asking for Andor. Like, no one really cared about that time period. But obviously,
we know what happens to all the characters.
Yeah.
Like, they die in Rogue One. Like,
exactly.
So-
But they had a strong script and they executed it well. So that's an example of something where, you know, there was a vision and they went ahead with it, not reacting to what people actually want or anything like that.
like Tony Gilroy. The stuff that he wrote.
Tony Gilroy actually hates Star Wars as well. He's actually gone out and said that.
Wow.
Which maybe it's like, maybe you don't need to be like a super fan to make this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, just be a good director.
Just need to be a competent filmmaker.
A good storyteller, and then you bring in small elements here and there, and because Andor's actually it's not actually Star Wars. It's about totalitarian governments when they get good, when they get really effective at their job, how dangerous it can be. And injustice and all that kind of stuff. That stuff comes out. So when you make the show about injustice or about totalitarian regimes and how it destroys everything that's good, you forget that it's Star Wars for a second. You're like, this is really, really dark. This is really gritty. This is really good. Then when you bring in the whole aspect of the universe back in, and it's like, oh, I wonder how this would play in terms of the other events that are happening in the world, or how Admiral Thrawn might come into this because he's now canon. He's now part of the thing. So yeah, I think last time we spoke about the future of Star Wars, I was mentioning Thrawn as well. Like, some of his standalone extended works by Timothy Zahn have a lot of great material for what could eventuate. And I think we might see some of that in the movies that Dave Filoni is behind for the rest of for 2025. So there's going to be a Mandalorian and Grogu movie. I think there's going to be a Ahsoka movie, and there's going to be one Mandalorian movie that will tie things together.
I think there's like, it could be a tie.
Yeah. So a Thrawn, Mandalorian, and Ahsoka. Yeah. All
and there's the Rey one that's still in production as well. So
yes. So there is hope, but it's not new.
Just don't force it.
Just don't. Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to go for a New Hope thing, and you went straight for it. So like, just wait till the Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
So, Kathleen Kennedy, I hope you got some ideas, especially at the end there, the animated one. Just send us the check.
Yeah. Or just stop making stuff.
Maybe take a step back.
Cool.
Thanks guys for hosting this. That's like you said, it's not normally done. But
hope you got some weight off your chest.
Yes. Keep buying your mugs though, and I should show you this one. Your is this merch that you can buy off the store? Do you have like official?
No, we don't.
We don't. If you want that though,
if you want it,
just let us know.
Just let us know. We'll buy one for you. Yeah, you have to pay us though.
Yeah,
you have to pay them. Sorry.
Well, we'll be the first one buying merch, Star Wars merch, when we go to Disneyland. So, despite all the stuff we've said, we'll be the first to cave in.
We'll be the first to cave in. We might be back in Japan for Star Wars Convention 2025. So I guess we're going there. Our next episode will most likely be from Japan, coming to you live from.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So
we'll see what we talk about there.
Be very interesting stuff.
Great. Thanks, Bhaskar, for coming on.
No, it's a pleasure.
As always, a great conversation. And we'll be back, I guess. We've got some stuff planned. Bad Boys, Inside Out 2, that we still need to talk about. So we'll record that soon. And we'll have Deadpool and Wolverine soon as well, because that's not too far away.
Yeah.
Coming up.
So if people want to get in touch with us, how they go about it?
So we're on all platforms at Cognitive Recalibration, or you can email us at cognitiverecalibrationpodcast@gmail.com.
And definitely give us any comments. Subscribe, like, and tell us how you feel about Star Wars, I guess.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Yep.
Google Podcasts is no more, so.
Yeah, it's decommissioned, but yeah. Cool. Thanks for spending part of your day with us. Hope you had a great time, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Have a good one.
See ya.
Bye.